Hi.
Hi. How are you?
You have questions.
Yes.
In fact, I do.
Yeah, so one of those questions is, if this whole universe anchor being nonsense that causes Deadpool's universe to collapse, is Logan's death, even though Deadpool 2 already kind of confirmed that these movies share the Days of Future Past timeline, and not the timeline from the Logan movie.
McAvoy or Stewart, these timelines are so confusing.
And if Deadpool and Wolverine in that same timeline takes place in the year 2024, when the Logan film is supposed to take place in 2029, 5 years in the future, how exactly is Logan's death the inciting event that causes Deadpool's universe to collapse when it hadn't even happened yet?
Yeah.
Logan takes place in 2029. Totally separate thing. Logan died in Logan. Not touching that. What actually happens in our film is...
Worse! Much worse!
Also, if you guys wanted to leave Logan's ending intact, then couldn't you have just had the Deadpool and Wolverine film take place when Logan should still be alive? Even if it does share the same timeline with the Deadpool films? Or hell, couldn't Deadpool have just used Cable's time travel device that we left him with at the end of the second film to go back in time and team up with Wolverine in the past, either before or after he lost his memory, and we still could have gotten the Lethal Weapon action comedy fan service extravaganza that everyone was craving without having to resort to all this multiverse crap, and keeping Deadpool as far away as possible from the absolute trash fire that the MCU has become?
Really makes you think.
Hear the music.
Okay, let me just start this one off by saying I did not go into this movie looking to be a Debbie Downer who wanted to shit all over it the minute he got home from the theater. Despite the fact that Marvel has been getting on my nerves unrelentingly as of late. As a matter of fact, and I can prove it, when the full trailers first dropped for Deadpool and Wolverine, I was like, damn, they might actually have something here. The shameless as balls textbook Marvel marketing strategy notwithstanding, you got Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool, which, yes, I adore and have loved both of his Deadpool movies. The first one obviously being the gold standard, the second one being lesser and definitely not without its drawbacks, but still pretty damn good. And then you have the hometown boy, Hugh Jackman, reprising his role as Wolverine. You put these two together and the chemistry they obviously share, you film it, you turn it into a movie, magic's gonna happen. As a matter of fact, this is on my wish list the moment I saw Deadpool back in 2016, and it was swiftly crushed when Logan, the absolute kick-ass blood and guts swan song that Wolverine deserved, which was not only one of the best X-Men movies, but undoubtedly Hugh Jackman's performance and a perfect way for him to say farewell to the character, as well as the introduction of Daphne Keane, and the father-daughter dynamic between Wolverine and X-23 being the beating heart of that film. That film was the perfect goodbye to Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, but it swiftly crushed any hopes I had of getting the Deadpool Wolverine team-up. That would have been so freaking epic.
Really, the only word for it is...
Fuck Wolverine. First, he rides my coattails with the R rating. Then, the hairy motherfucker ups the ante by dying. What a dick.
I couldn't believe Fox, and Hugh Jackman for that matter, would pass it up. So yes, I was actually quite excited for this movie, despite Marvel, and I figured, you know what, there is some potential here if they just have Deadpool, have Wolverine somehow, without fucking up the beautiful, although tragic ending to Logan. Disney and Marvel Studios could have something actually worth a fuck on their hands, you know, because they sure as shit don't have anything else going for them at this point. Other than big names and cameo bait, and in light of recent events, I'll get back to that shortly, bet your ass. But I figured Marvel can make it work if they just have Deadpool and Wolverine in the same vein of Riggs and Murtaugh in Lethal Weapon, and we'll have a perfectly fitting end for both of these characters that a chimpanzee at a fucking typewriter could be hard-pressed to fuck up, unless, of course, Kevin fuckhead Feige can't fucking help himself and has to tie a completely separate continuity and characters into his shitty-ass, bloated to shit, maggot-written corpse of a franchise that, much like when the Titanic sunk, is slipping faster and faster into the fucking abyss at this point. If they keep Deadpool and Wolverine clear of the MCU, they could have had the best of the Deadpool movies and maybe the best of the Wolverine films as well. I mean, after all, it's not like Deadpool needed a cinematic universe to fucking thrive in the past, right?
I know, right?
So, did Marvel say, let's let Deadpool thrive on his own with Wolverine in their own continuity, and let's tell a simple, focused, coherent story that's just about these two characters and a threat they need to join forces and work as frenemies to overcome. But did Marvel do that? No! They did precisely the fucking opposite. Of course. Way to go there, Kev.
Good job.
Now look, I see people flapping their gums online, praising this movie to high heaven, as many could have predicted, for stroking the dick of their fanboy comic book fantasies, that all the Marvel trailers tickled with their textbook fill out the theater on the first day cameo bait, and print headlines for how it's breaking records and baiting the shallow, most vapidly fucking empty-headed, tasteless twats into the theater and have them run wild to all their equally shallow and tasteless fucking Marvel brigaders because of, ooh, look at all these extra cameos that weren't included in the trailer. You gotta see it. You just gotta see it. Cool. Is there a plot? Is there anything in this movie of substance besides fan service that's worth going to fucking see? No! But that is the modern Marvel age we live in. It's textbook at this point, and if it keeps the franchise on life support, it ain't going anywhere. Now, with that said, is this movie a complete loss? No! As shallow and lacking of substance as the new Marvel business model is, I'd be lying if I said I didn't sit through this movie without a smile on my face. Because I did. I did find enjoyment in this film. Alright? One thing I'm willing to say and commend Marvel for, everything you expected this movie to deliver on for a Deadpool and Wolverine team-up movie, besides a story of substance and a coherent plot, of course, well, this movie actually does deliver on. You want to watch the unkillable Deadpool fight the unkillable Wolverine in a blood and guts brawl? That's the equivalent of an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object?
We're to be two immortals locked in an epic battle until Judgment Day and the trumpets sound. Or you could surrender.
This film gives it to you. You want to watch Deadpool and Wolverine team up together to fight 100 bad guys? This film gives it to you. You want all the Deadpool humor and fourth wall breaking that you've come to know and love from the previous two films? That you sure as shit bet your ass was a fuck ton better than whatever the fuck She-Hulk was trying to be.
Why don't we just do things our own way?
This is the story that Kevin wants.
Yes, this film delivers on that too. You want to see the return of Wolverine and his foul F-bombing fucking mouth from the hardcore version of him that we got in Logan. This film delivers on that too. Everything you've come to know and love from the previous two Deadpool films, again, aside from the story quality and a coherent plot, Deadpool and Wolverine delivers. But I say all this with an asterisk, because everything that Deadpool and Wolverine did deliver on, it doesn't quite live up to the same standard as the previous two Deadpool films. Not to mention there's a ton of meta issues that come with Deadpool being under new management, but I'll explain what those issues are when we come to them. Right, now before we continue, let me just say, if you're familiar with my channel, you're also familiar with my very vocal hatred towards the current state of the MCU. From one of my many videos that I've made trashing the franchise, or at least the modern version of the franchise, and let me just say, I stand by every word. Yes, the MCU is a corpse. Yes, it's bloated to all shit. Yes, it's a woke trash fire. But NOMZ, you said you were done with the MCU. I was done with the MCU. The only thing that brought me back were two fucking actors and characters that I love, which had nothing to do with the MCU. And as I'll make perfectly fucking clear in this video, they should never have been brought into the MCU to begin with. A sentiment that's shared by none other than Mr. High Top Films.
I know, right?
Who, just for the record, I'm certainly not his biggest fan or anything. He's made plenty of videos that I disagree with, but whatever your feelings towards the guy, his video absolutely hit the nail on the head with precisely what is wrong with this movie and the inclusion of the multiverse, despite its enjoyable aspects. I actually gave his video a watch through not before, but after I'd completed most of this one. And I was astounded how many of my own grievances with this movie fell very much in line with his own. But admittedly, his video is much more articulate and possesses much more finesse than mine does. But people don't subscribe to me for finesse, they subscribe to me because they know I'm a straight shooter.
Shoot from the hip.
That being said, you should definitely give his video a chance at some point. But that being said, this is a Deadpool movie. And yes, Disney and Marvel's strategy is cameos and fan baiting and blah blah blah. However, fourth wall breaking and ball fondling the fans, meta jokes, and surprise cameo appearances are nothing new for the Deadpool franchise. Unfortunately, neither is TJ Miller.
Get fucked, pile of shit!
But that aside, point being, in the hands of Disney, you bet your ass they're going to exploit the shit out of that. But I'm allowing for much more leeway than I would with any other Marvel production for this shameless tactic because it is somewhat faithful to what Deadpool has always been. You know, when it was owned by Fox and not by the mouse. But granted, Fox took this a little bit too far as well. After all, Deadpool 2 was turned into Deadpool trying to become an X-Men, and it was teased that he would start his very own X-Men / Avengers squad called X-Force, but thankfully Fox didn't follow through on that, and it was actually a surprise, fucking funny gag twist halfway through the film. Which was good, except it was overindulgent and took precious time away from the plot in order for it to happen, leaving the movie much less focused than the first Deadpool film. Well, that and the fact that the plot hinged around a 500-pound kid who apparently went to the same school of comedy as Rebel Wilson did, meaning just being an obnoxiously loud fat fuck is enough to be considered funny. And as we all know, that ain't the case unless your name is Eddie Murphy. I got a kick out of a number of cameos that were included in Deadpool and Wolverine. The Cavalrine, for instance, got a huge chuckle out of me. And that's the kind of thing I expected based on what we saw in the previous two Deadpool films. Unfortunately, Disney and Marvel and fuckhead Feige had to just throw everything at the wall to see what sticks, and decided to turn a very simple, easy money fucking movie like Deadpool and Wolverine into the Fox X-Men / Marvel Saga's Sayonara Swan Song because it's all being moved into the quote-unquote sacred timeline.
You join the sacred timeline where you can finally matter.
And yes, I understand that was a meta joke. I'll come back to those meta jokes a bit later, because while they have the same flavor, there is a new and very bitter aftertaste when you take a step back and see where they're coming from. But yes, Disney, Marvel, and fuckhead Feige overindulged the shit out of themselves and bloated this movie to shit with unnecessary inclusions by previous characters from the Fox Marvel franchise in the early 2000s. As I said, some of them were leaked, such as Elektra from the 03 Daredevil film. Strange fucking choice. Not to mention the 05 standalone that she did. Oh, I guess Marvel decided to acknowledge the fact that Captain Marvel wasn't the first female-led superhero film. And hell, it wasn't even the first female-led superhero film for Marvel. Nonetheless, Elektra was a fucking nothing burger of a character from the 03 Daredevil film and her own standalone. No offense to Jennifer Garner, I'm just saying the character really didn't land or do much. Nobody gave a shit about that character. And hell, it was even slightly expected since the internet can't keep its yap shut about even the tiniest of fucking leaks. But that's not to say they were all bad. After all, the surprise twist with Chris Evans' appearance left a big smile on my face because, I mean, at first I was like, yeah, okay, cool. They brought him back as a multiverse Captain America. Whatever. And then when Deadpool slowly butters him up for the Avengers Assemble line, and instead he yells flame on, I'd be lying if my inner child wasn't doing backflips because I grew up loving the first two Fantastic Four movies from the early 2000s. Yes, even with their flaws and all. So it's not like I'm immune to nostalgia. I just don't, like so many others, let it carry the fucking movies for me. Yeah, you bet your ass I had a huge smile on my face, and I always liked Chris Evans as the Human Torch.
What do you call that thing?
That's it.
The Thing.
Okay, now I'm gonna go kill him.
That's gold, Jerry. Gold!
But not nearly as much as I loved the surprise reintroduction of the king and savior of Marvel in the late 90s, early 2000s, and who undoubtedly would make Black Panther his bitch.
Hear the music.
Ladies and gentlemen, we had the honor of bearing witness to Wesley fucking Snipes as fucking Blade once again.
Ooh, so exciting.
I know not as many people are familiar with the old Blade films as they are with, say, the old Spider-Man films, but that reaction that Marvel got when Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire reappeared on the big screen in No Way Home, that was my reaction to the reintroduction of Wesley Snipes. I'll get back to him a bit later on. Also, Channing Tatum showed up as Gambit for some reason. Again, surprise appearance from an A-lister, more textbook Marvel. And of course, we had probably one of the only cameos that made any kind of sense with the reintroduction of Laura, aka X-23, played by a much older Daphne Keane, who, as much as I was glad to see her, would have been much fucking better if the trailers and leaks didn't spoil it. Way to go, Marvel! Look, I'll get back to the cameos a bit later when I talk about the story.
Oh no, no stories.
No story?
No, forget the story.
You gotta have a story.
Who says you gotta have a story? It's about nothing.
Well, it's not about nothing.
No, it's about nothing.
Well, maybe in philosophy.
No, nothing happens.
But the point I'm getting at is what Marvel did with this film, taking Deadpool and Wolverine, tying it into the MCU via the Loki series of all fucking things, which never should have existed to begin with. Get it away! In order to facilitate this integration of Deadpool and Wolverine into the MCU through this multiverse police crap that didn't make a lick of sense to begin with, and diluting what could have had much, much more potential in a Lethal Weapon style violent action comedy between Deadpool and Wolverine into Deadpool, Wolverine, and the mini-Avengers of the 20th Century Fox, X-Men, and Marvel franchise that was designed to be little more than a sayonara swan song to the table scrap leftovers that Kevin Feige, Marvel Studios, and Disney didn't deem worthy, we'll call it, for the quote-unquote sacred timeline, which is fucking laughable considering where the MCU and Earth 616 is in its current state. In other words, it's just fuckhead Feige and Marvel Studios once again showing that they have absolutely no imagination whatsoever. Just recreating another Avengers movie, relying on cameos to fill the void of the movie rather than an interesting story and a coherent plot. And when you don't have an actor that you can bring back to fill the role, just fucking throw in an A-lister like Channing Tatum and call it a day. I've said this in my other videos before. For lack of imagination or any foresight whatsoever to plan ahead and structure a story, not to mention bloating everything to oblivion instead of focusing it in order to get people invested in what the fuck is going on with the MCU anymore, Marvel did exactly the opposite. They bloated everything to shit from what was a very simple slam dunk with Deadpool and Wolverine, and they made it so that you had to watch the Loki series to understand it. The plot couldn't progress without having to introduce all these fucking characters that, despite me being happy to see some of them, really had no business being in this fucking movie. And instead of telling a story, just told a jumbled up fucking mess that, much like No Way Home, amounts to little more than a fan service orgy fest, so they could print money through the ever-reliable drug of nostalgia for the brain-dead masses. And if recent events are anything to go by, Marvel's lack of imagination has hit an all-time low. Yeah, they can't bring back Downey Jr. as Iron Man, so let's just bring him back as a variant for a different character that we haven't bothered to set up. Also, not to defend Feige here, but apparently there was some more Twitter crybaby outrage culture crap going around because having RDJ return to the MCU as Doctor Doom supposedly whitewashes the character. And to be clear, I'm not a fan of Robert Downey Jr.'s recycled casting choice, even though he's a fully capable actor, because it represents total desperation and a lack of imagination on Marvel's part. But the rationale used by this dumb shit vocal minority is just fucking fun to laugh at. What's wrong, soy boys? Not as stunning and brave when arbitrary race bending happens in reverse? The good news for those clowns is that, courtesy of Marvel's stupidity, there's an easy fix for this.
New mask, same task.
See, thanks to this whole variant horse shit that was introduced in the Loki series, there is actually a canonical possibility, however unlikely, that Marvel Studios can just shove in Lincoln Osiris as a Doctor Doom variant, when all Disney has to do is buy the rights to Tropic Thunder if they haven't already, just like they've done with all the other franchises they've shamelessly bought out and used to keep their trash fire of a franchise on life support. And of course, if this actually happened, the Marvel Bitch Brigade would still kiss Feige's ass and call it ice cream. And of course, when called out on this, they will cling to their ever golden crutch and skirt around any and all of the criticisms directed at Marvel by replying with, "'Cause it's the multiverse, NOMZ!" Because that's how low the standards of you people are.
Huh. What do you mean, you people?
And if you need any more proof of a lack of imagination, just look at who they picked to play Mr. Fantastic! The not-so-fantastic Mr. Pascal. Gee, how fucking original. You know, I've gotten on Tom Holland's case in the past for just being a giant Hollywood yes-man and just whoring himself out to every little role that offers him a paycheck, no matter if it fucking suits him or not. I understand guys gotta make a living and all that shit, but Pedro Pascal, through a collective amount of woke-propagating Hollywood dick gobbling,
Hey, have you been doing a lot of this?
is probably the most shamelessly overcast actor in history. Well, except for this useless sack of shit. And that's another weird thing about Marvel. They're more than willing to give fans their fondest wish when it comes to buttering them up with cameos in order to get them into the theater.
Gratuitous cameos, indiscriminate use of variants, the whole package.
But when it comes to their very own audience literally begging online for a certain actor to play the part of a character they adore, they're like, nah, we're gonna go with the most boring choice possible because we have no imagination whatsoever, but not before exploiting internet fanfiction with leaks designed to get you into the theater to see them make an appearance, only before pulling a very unsubtle bait and switch where the actor appears in some cheap 10-second cameo instead. Like, it's one thing to cash in on some fan service from the most shallow and gullible of the Marvel cesspool that so easily buy into these wild-ass theories and internet leaks, and who base their adoration for these films solely on how much Marvel chooses to tickle their loins. But like, fan service is one thing. I myself enjoyed the Cavalrine immensely, understand, but it's another thing entirely to have this deliberately fan-baited actor show up for the role of the character that the audience wants to see him play, just to have him involved for a 10-second cameo, just long enough for Marvel to very spitefully kill off the character played by the fan favorite actor in the most violent way possible. Also, isn't it just so fucking telling that Marvel Studios is willing to kill off, without a second thought, characters that fans prize from other universes and other franchises which they did not create but are willing to milk for extra star power and ticket sales? Or hell, they'll go as far as to kill them off screen if there's not enough budget and runtime to fit them in.
Dear sweet God in heaven, let it be Magneto. He's with him.
He's dead.
Fuck! Now Disney gets cheated.
Every time one of us has gone up against her, they die. The Punisher, the Quicksilver, the
Daredevil, I'm so sorry. It's fine. Okay.
Yet will constantly be unwilling to kill off even their B team of vapid, useless fucking characters, talentless, homegrown fucking crop. And hell, more to the point of their lack of imagination when it comes to their casting, and especially when it comes to casting their villains, who are always complete and utter fucking nothing burgers. Instead of Marvel saying, okay, we're going to take the time to build up Doctor Doom properly and cast the right actor who we think can bring this character to life in the most compelling and faithful way possible.
No!
Instead, Marvel just say, we're going to bring back this actor we know you like from this other role and just recast him because of this variant bullshit we set up in that fucking trash fire of a series that was not so low-key shit. And you know what else? I'm calling it now. Hugh Jackman's quote-unquote last performance as Wolverine under the helm of Marvel Studios, due to their lack of imagination or talent on hand, and because they have almost nothing else going for them at this point, is quickly going to turn into the ever-elusive final Fast and Furious movie.
One last ride, one last ride, one last ride.
Apologies, I just had to get that out of my system. Rant tangent over. Let's get on with the plot and the story of Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh no, no stories.
And the Fox Mini Avengers X-Men cast that Marvel wanted to sweep under the rug, and never should have been in this fucking movie to begin with. Now, even though I still didn't really like what they ended up doing with the story and the plot, I will give credit where it's due in that it was a wise move for Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman to nip our biggest concerns in the bud, that Deadpool and Wolverine was supposedly going to undo the beloved ending to Logan. And I can say this much, at least Deadpool and Wolverine didn't fuck that up. Granted, Marvel Studios and fuckhead Feige opted for something much more stupid instead, but I'll get back to that later. As for the opening to the film, well, let me put it like this. If Deadpool 2's end credit scene was the best out of all the Marvel films, then Deadpool 3's opening credit scene might arguably be the best of all the Marvel films, because it pulls a glorious bait and switch where Deadpool visits Logan's grave, he digs up Wolverine's grave and finds nothing but his adamantium skeleton, and then Deadpool gets attacked by a whole bunch of nameless henchmen, and using the remains of Logan's skeleton, Deadpool proceeds to go to town on all of them in a glorious, violent bloodbath. Which is all well and good, except the thing that kind of ruins it is when you come to find out that it's the Multiverse Police from the Disney Plus Loki television series. Well, that and the fact that, again, going by the logic or lack thereof, that these movies take place in the same timeline, then Logan's death is meant to happen 5 years in the future to the year that Deadpool and Wolverine actually takes place in. Before we catch up to that, we see Deadpool somehow, back in 2018, managed to reach the quote-unquote sacred timeline of the MCU with what I'm guessing was Cable's time travel device that we left him with at the end of the second Deadpool film. But for the sake of a borderline non-existent plot in a Kevin Feige production,
no shit,
all of a sudden Cable's time travel device is able to travel across the multiverse as well, and I guess Marvel still hasn't figured out from Spider-Man No Way Home that the multiverse and time travel are two completely different things. And as I've already said in several of my other videos, if you've invested billions of dollars into a multiverse saga and somehow Family Guy does a better job at executing the multiverse concept than you do, then your multiverse saga is fucking shit.
Where are we? This is Cohort, Brian. Same year, same time. But in this universe, Christianity never existed, which means the dark ages of scientific repression never occurred, and thus humanity is 1,000 years more advanced.
Anyway, the reason that Deadpool travels to the quote-unquote sacred timeline is to try and join the Avengers. And I'm guessing this is before Thanos snaps his fingers, or maybe it takes place after that happens, and the Happy Hogan cameo we got in this movie, played by Jon Favreau, is able to take place because he wasn't yeeted out of existence, though I'm pretty sure he was, or maybe fuckhead Feige didn't give a shit either way. Anywho, let's not get too hung up on it. Look, I love me some Jon Favreau, but I hate that Happy Hogan is in this film, along with the rest of the MCU being tied into it when it really didn't need to be. They made the same mistake with Deadpool as Sony did with Across the Spider-Verse, the directors of which justified their reason for doing so with the eloquent rationale of a rising tide raising all ships.
You stupid.
Which is a line that was apparently fed to them by fuckhead Feige. Big surprise there. To which again, I say, yeah, a rising tide raises all ships, but a sinking ship drags everyone down. Especially when you consider the holes in the MCU's continuity at this point are wider than the ones the torpedoes left on the Lusitania. No tide is raising that shit, not even Deadpool and Wolverine. Case in point, using the whole multiverse police agency from the comparatively obscure Logie television show on Disney+, which was a trash fire to begin with, to bring Deadpool into the MCU was not only the weakest way to justify this horse shit, but again, it was completely unnecessary. And let's get something straight here. The only reason that Loki's batshit concept of the multiverse was introduced is so Feige and his infinite lack of imagination could just, via financial persuasion, bullshit any Hollywood A-lister back into the MCU in roles they've already played before, or hell, even completely different ones. That's the only reason why Loki was tied into Deadpool, to allow for variance and cameo bait. Nothing more. As I said on a previous video, I quit the MCU a long time ago, meaning that I was spared from many of the train wrecks that the MCU had to offer in Phase 4, one of which being the Loki series. And all of that multiverse crap and infinite infinity stones with a multiverse police, etc, etc. I discussed the bloating of the MCU in a previous video. This is exactly what I was talking about. Deadpool 1, all I had to do was be a fan of comic book films and just watch the damn movie to understand it. Deadpool 2, the only required viewing to understand it was Deadpool 1. With the exception of a few external references and jokes that weren't really plot relevant that would likely go over someone's head. But now, with this next sequel, the required viewing for Deadpool 3 is Deadpool 1, Deadpool 2, and for absolutely no fucking reason other than to extend the life support of Feige's quote-unquote sacred timeline, now to watch a Deadpool sequel from an entirely different franchise that has no business being connected to the MCU whatsoever. If you want to have a comprehensive viewing experience, you have to watch, or at least research, the Loki series to understand all this multiverse and variant timeline bullshit. And if you need any more proof that Feige just wanted to tie a lifeline to his sinking franchise, as I said, there's a very simple alternative for what they could have done. They just didn't want to because of the MCU's new business model. Back to Deadpool's Avengers meeting. The thing I hate most about this cameo scene with Happy Hogan isn't that it was completely unnecessary, nor is it the fact that Deadpool bullshitted his way across the multiverse by means of time travel. What actually pissed me off the most is the angle of which Marvel Studios very spitefully chose to approach Deadpool's character. The idea is to bring him into the MCU, right? So how do they accomplish this? By immediately converting Deadpool into an MCU fanboy who needs to join in order to quote-unquote matter.
I want to be an Avenger. Why do you want to be an Avenger?
to look around you. I mean, they're the best of the best. And what they do matters.
Like, get fucked, would ya? Did you even watch the previous two Deadpool films? The guy is a complete anti-authoritarian and rogue, no pun intended, who hated the idea of joining any kind of superhero collective. See Exhibit A from Deadpool 1.
Okay, let's pro-con this superhero thing. Pro. They pull down a gaggle of ass. Local dry cleaning discounts, lucrative film deals, both origin stories and larger ensemble team movies. Con, they're all lame-ass teachers' pets.
Use your powers for good.
Heads up.
Be a superhero.
Listen, the day I decide to become a crime-fighting shit swizzler who rooms with a bunch of other little whiners at the Neverland mansion of some creepy, old, bald, Heaven's Gate-looking motherfucker, on that day, I'll send your shiny happy ass a friend request.
And Exhibit B from Deadpool 2, where he makes an attempt to join the X-Men, but quickly realizes that they, according to him anyway, suck at getting shit done. And their idea of superheroing is not his style.
Those guys hurt you? Ah, fuck it.
Being a hero takes only a few moments. Doing the ugly stuff, no one else will do.
You were right, Wade. You are not X-Men material.
No shit, Shiny Gandhi!
You are not judge, jury, or executioner.
Fuck your rules!
So that begs the question of why the fuck would Deadpool want to join up with the Avengers to quote-unquote matter? Other than to very blatantly stroke Feige's dick on camera, pretending as if the MCU is currently in any position of superiority to the other non-Disney Marvel films and franchises.
That's a good one.
Actually, to be fair, that would definitely apply in the case of Sony.
Stop! He's already dead!
But once more, Marvel Studios try to have their cake and eat it too, by passing off Deadpool playing the MCU fanboy part as a joke.
Marvel Jesus. Suck it, Fox. I'm going to Disneyland. Get fucked.
And turning it into a running gag along with several of their other gags that are just as spiteful, whilst trying to be self-aware at the same time, and I'll get into those examples later on. But of course, the complete irony of this whole attempt at meta-humor is that Deadpool doesn't need the Avengers to quote-unquote matter. Given Marvel's desperation with this very movie, it's very obviously the other way around. And before I get some dipshit in the comments saying, "Duh, it's obvious, that's what Marvel is going for," no! Despite some of Deadpool's meta jokes poking fun at Disney and the demise of 20th Century Fox, his wanting to join the MCU and the Avengers is one of his very few completely sincere character motivations in this movie, which again, as I said, is completely nonsensical. If this movie is attempting to be a part of the continuity from the previous two Deadpool films, as Marvel Studios is claiming. And the whole sudden change in Wade's mentality comes from Vanessa apparently losing interest in him as a boyfriend.
I need to be an Avenger. Certain that girl has kind of had it with my shtick, and if I don't, turn things around and do something with my gifts, I don't think it's going to really work out for me, and I wouldn't blame her.
Which, if you've watched the ending to Deadpool 2, that, for the record, took place in 2018, the year that he's paying Happy Hogan a visit, Vanessa was still very much into him. In fact, they were planning on having kids.
Connor, if it's a boy. May, if it's a girl.
Family was always an F word to me. A pile of shit father took off and bailed. And, it's not like I have a lot of strong role models to draw off of for Todd.
You are not your father.
You get the strap on. Let's make a super baby.
We're definitely naming our kid Cher!
Woo! Not to mention, if you'll recall from Deadpool 1, this chick was even willing to stick by him through his cancer illness. So to this whole Deadpool saying, "I suddenly want to be an Avenger" crap, because Vanessa is all of a sudden getting bored with him out of the clear blue sky, I say, bullshit. Anyway, after Happy Hogan rejects Deadpool and somehow Deadpool got back to his own universe, it time jumps to the future 6 years to a surprise party for Wade, and all of the previous Deadpool alumni characters get to make an appearance, which was honestly quite nice to see that they've kept that aspect of the films going. And this movie earned some mad fucking bonus points by keeping TJ Miller the fuck out. I'm glad that Hollywood's starting to catch on to the fact that having TJ Miller included in any film benefits no one. Hell, even Michael Bay knew this. Which is why after an arduous time on set with the prick, he purged that motherfucker as soon as possible. But like I said, the fact that Deadpool now has a kind of warm, albeit extremely strange, support group of friends around him, almost like a family dynamic, was pretty nice to see, even somewhat rewarding as a fan of the series. Granted, out of all of this, the one thing that's actually worth noting is that he and Vanessa have, for no other reason, other than to contrive some bullshit for why Wade all of a sudden wants to join the Avengers, both characters apparently ended their relationship some time ago. So I guess the whole endeavor of having children that was set up in Deadpool 2 was just completely abandoned by Marvel Studios? Oh well. Skimming ahead, the multiverse police from Loki contacts Deadpool and tell him it's time for him to join the quote-unquote sacred timeline.
And we're in charge of defending what's known as the sacred timeline. You join the sacred timeline.
Again, this is the post-Endgame quote-unquote sacred timeline.
End your days of insignificance and mediocrity. Finally, matter.
Deadpool agrees, but is given the shocking revelation that his universe is dying, and it comes to his realization that the multiverse police only want to save him because he's apparently the only one worth saving, and they're willing to let his universe die, while they welcome Deadpool into the quote-unquote sacred timeline.
In fact, you've been chosen for a higher purpose. You will not be returning to your home because there will be no home to return to. It means that I have been tasked with overseeing the end of your universe.
You're gonna old yeller my fucking universe?
In your parlance, yes.
And this right here is the part that made me lose all investment in the story. The reason Deadpool's universe is quote-unquote unraveling is because of some contrived horseshit about the death of a quote-unquote anchor being, which is causing the whole universe to be erased.
That is what happens when a universe loses their anchor being. This is how a reality dies.
What's an anchor being?
An anchor being is an entity of such vital importance that when they die, their whole world slowly withers out of existence.
And even though it's completely ridiculous, not only in concept, but also given the fucking point in the timeline that this film takes place in, Wolverine was supposedly the quote-unquote anchor being for Deadpool's universe, and his death is what's causing the timeline to unravel. And then Deadpool realizes the only way to save his timeline is to bring Wolverine back. What in the actual fuck? Look, as I said, I'm well aware that the Deadpool films are much more lighthearted than a lot of the other Marvel films, and they don't take themselves too seriously, blah blah blah. So I didn't go into this movie or any of the other Deadpool films expecting a plot with the same level of intricacy as Inception, but I gotta draw the line somewhere. And not only is Deadpool and Wolverine's plot lazy, desperate, and completely batshit, but this whole idea of someone dying who was not supposed to, or the universe collapses, gave me major PTSD flashbacks to Across the Spider-Verse.
That is not a compliment.
Did the writers just see the "it's a canon event" crap and say, yeah, let's do that to bring Wolverine back? Because if so, that would explain where the bulk of their stupidity came from. But anyway, Deadpool says, fuck that, he's gonna go save his universe by bringing back Logan, which brings us full circle back to where the movie started, when Deadpool goes to visit Logan's grave and starts slicing up the multiverse police with Wolverine's adamantium skeleton. Again, despite the fact that Deadpool and Wolverine takes place in 2024 and Logan took place in 2029. So after Deadpool kills them all, and he realizes that Logan is dead and that there's no bringing him back, Deadpool instead opts to go on an admittedly hilarious multiverse montage, trying to find a suitable replacement for his universe's Wolverine. And it's here we get introduced to all of these really wacky Wolverine variants, including the glorious Cavalrine cameo, Long May He Reign. Finally, Deadpool comes across a version of Wolverine who's depressed, down on his luck, and sitting at a bar, not all that unlike how we were first introduced to him in the very first X-Men movie. Anyway, Deadpool basically drags him kicking and screaming back to the multiverse police, and they make a big deal about him getting his fan-favorite comic book costume that apparently so many were just dying for 20 years waiting to see him wear.
Bonus! He's actually wearing a costume like he's not embarrassed to be in a superhero movie for once.
And yeah, it undeniably looks good, but come on, that's some shallow as fuck mentality right there. But hey, that's exactly what Marvel Studios and fuckhead Feige were banking on. Content designed for the lowest common denominator, who focus only on the superficial fan service aspects of these movies. However, in this instance, I'm not docking points for the costume or anything like that. I'm just using it as yet another example for the mentality behind how Marvel Studios goes about making these movies. Anyway, before we go on, there is one issue I took with how Wolverine was portrayed in this movie. Relax! There was nothing wrong with the performance Hugh Jackman gave. He is still very much the myth, the legend, the Jacked Man. And yes, Wolverine in this movie is very reminiscent of the hardcore version we saw from Logan, albeit nowhere near as emotionally gripping.
I don't fucking care.
Get the fuck away from me.
But therein lies my issue. He was a little too reminiscent of the Wolverine from Logan and several other versions we've seen portrayed in these movies, because once again, he's all mopey and pissed off about letting all of his friends down and everyone he knows and loves being dead. And yes, I'm well aware that Wolverine isn't meant to be the kind of character that's all sunshine and rainbows, but it feels like every time there's an X-Men movie, even if it's from a different point in the timeline, or hell, even a different timeline altogether, that's the same Wolverine we always get. Maybe that's why I'm a big fan of how he was portrayed in Days of Future Past. Like, yeah, Wolverine has an extremely dark past, and he's dealt with a lot of loss in his life, but it felt like his character had moved forward and become stronger from that. And in that film, it was actually Charles Xavier who was the character in need of some guidance. It was a nice change of pace.
Fuck off. Listen to me, you little shit. I've come a long way, and I've watched a lot of people die, good people and friends. Look into my mind.
You saw what I did to Cerebro. You don't want me inside your head.
There's no damage you can do that hasn't already been done, trust me.
And while there's nothing outright wrong with how the character was portrayed in Deadpool and Wolverine, it did seem like a bit of a missed opportunity to give us something a little more fresh, but oh well. It's certainly not the first opportunity that this film missed to maximize its potential. Anyway, after Deadpool retrieves Wolverine and tells the multiverse police that they can now save his universe because he's found the missing piece that his timeline needs, it becomes apparent that the multiverse police were never interested in saving Deadpool's universe in the first place.
I don't understand. You actually think you can replace an anchor beam?
And as a matter of fact, they were going to expedite the process and ensure its demise, and since Deadpool isn't going to stand for that, the multiverse police decide to send both him and Wolverine to another universe where they can't interfere. And it's here that the main villain of the film is... drumroll please... the multiverse police guy in the suit.
Wow.
Yes, Marvel Studios and fuckhead Feige, as per usual, gave absolutely zero fucks towards the villain of this movie, who is so pathetic and is barely a character that they pull a swerve and instead opt to just toss Deadpool and Wolverine into a literal garbage dump universe for characters that are unwanted for the quote-unquote sacred timeline, which is specifically designed just so Deadpool and Wolverine could meet all of the surviving X-Men and Marvel characters from the Fox franchise, like the Human Torch, Blade, and Elektra. Yes, that is how lacking in imagination Marvel Studios has become. But before we get to that, we gotta have that Deadpool versus Wolverine fan service fight sequence, and you know what? Fair play to that, no complaints here. After all, that's half of what the movie was sold on anyway, and it's also consistent with the other Deadpool films that they'd even break the fourth wall and have Deadpool be kind enough to point this out to us.
Get your spectral sock out, nerds. It's gonna get good.
I just wish it could have been in a better movie. Anyway, Chris Evans surprising everyone as the Human Torch, and all three characters get captured and taken prisoner to meet the cruel, sadistic overlord of this character reject wasteland world, and we get introduced to Charles Femme Xavier, or Professor X Chromosome. I don't know, take your pick. I personally prefer the latter. And given that Marvel Studios was dumb enough to tie this in with Loki, you'd think this character was a variant of Professor X, but she actually claims to be his twin sister. Okay. Look, we all know why she's in this movie, especially when you consider the fact that this movie is all about giving what Marvel Studios deems in its own fucked up way to be a tribute to the 20th Century Fox films. Yet despite that, this character just shows up out of the blue and has no connection to the Fox timeline whatsoever, and Professor X is nowhere to be found. But hey, it worked wonders the last time they cameoed him. And before you start, yes, I'm aware that she's a character from the comics, by which I mean a couple of my friends had to make me aware of the fact that she was a character in the comics, and that Charles Xavier supposedly had a twin sister that even fucking existed in the first place. Because again, let's face it, Marvel had to meet their quota by any means necessary, even if it meant scraping the bottom of the barrel of their comic book catalog. And yeah, as far as the movie goes, this character is about as nonsensical and half-assed as you'd expect from fuckhead Feige. But hey, as long as the box was ticked, and she is a complete psychopath who through another swerve becomes the actual villain later on in the third act of the film. Again, much like the film's plot, I wasn't expecting the greatest villain of all time. Again, I understand the Deadpool films aren't taking themselves too seriously, but the first film managed to do a pretty decent job with the villain. He was a sadistic prick that managed to remain consistently integral to the plot for most of the runtime.
You still think we're making you a superhero? This workshop doesn't make superheroes, we make super slaves. Who knows what they left you doing? Terrorizing citizens, putting down freedom fighters. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Which was spent with Deadpool on a warpath to revenge.
Tell me where your fucking boss is, or you're gonna die!
You might want to look away for this. Now this little piggy went to... Thank you, Agent Smith.
Which took place in the form of a blood and guts grudge match with his nemesis in the final act of the film. And it worked because the whole time we were just holding out for Deadpool to finally get revenge on this piece of shit.
What better way to crawl back inside that head of yours?
Oh, you never left.
All of the Deadpool humor and gags and fourth wall breaking was still in there, and it was half of the fun, but it was never what carried the film, unlike this movie. We'll come back to that when we discuss the third act, but I digress. Anyway, Torch gets killed, then Deadpool and Logan escape Professor X Chromosome, who apparently has this all-consuming cloud fucking thing that just comes and devours everyone she doesn't like. We'll come back to that later on. Meanwhile, Deadpool and Wolverine dick around in that world, trading jabs and insults with each other. Wolverine still dropping F-bombs like he's got Tourette's syndrome.
What the fuck are those?
And then Deadpool finally decides to press Wolverine on what exactly went so wrong in his universe that he seems to be running from when they take the time to stop at an abandoned diner somewhere. When they move on, they end up meeting soy male feminist Pool, who owns this Deadpool dog, remember variants, ladies and gentlemen, and talk about a forced bit of humor that was just completely outstaying its fucking welcome. They overindulged the shit out of this. Many people probably loved it. I struggled to find it funny the first time it's brought up, and they just kept coming back to it over and over, chewing up minutes of the runtime for lack of an actual story, and nothing of value was gained. Matter of fact, I actually got a much bigger chuckle out of the whole Honda Odyssey gag. I don't know, I had a soft spot for that one, sue me. Anyway, eventually Deadpool manages to piss off Wolverine again, and the two basically hate fuck the shit out of each other with their blades until they're all tuck it out. And speaking of blades, after Deadpool and Wolverine are finished jizzing blood and steel all over their Honda Odyssey, they get woken up in the hideout of what Marvel deems as the character rejects from the 20th Century Fox timeline, and or timelines, who are excluded from the quote-unquote sacred timeline, and Deadpool and Wolverine get introduced to Jennifer Garner's Elektra, for some reason. Also, belonging to no timeline whatsoever, we get Channing Tatum as Gambit, for some reason. Obviously, as I said before, of course, Wesley Snipes' Blade makes a return, the only cameo inclusion that made me fanboy the fuck out, and X-23, aka Laura, played by Daphne Keane, who again was the only cameo/character appearance out of all of these that made any kind of sense to have in this movie. Given the fact that this movie, and those who made it, opted not to have Deadpool and Wolverine team up back in time, and the fact that Laura is a direct carryover from Logan, even though the Logan movie isn't supposed to have happened for at least another 5 years. Shh. But anyway, they all talk about how they are going to escape this hellish world and get Deadpool and Wolverine back to their timelines. But before we talk about the final act of the film, we need to talk about the quote-unquote Deadpool humor in this movie, and why it has, shall we say, somewhat lost its charm. See, under the 20th Century Fox regime, what made for good Deadpool humor, aka meta humor, was the fact that they were having fun at their own expense and laughing along with the audience at some of their past mistakes. For example, in the first Deadpool film, when they have the line,
"Well, sew your pretty mouth shut." Oh, I wouldn't do that if I were you.
That's a direct reference to the much maligned X-Men Origins Wolverine. Or this line here that points out the fact that the timeline between the older 20th Century Fox X-Men films and the newer ones is messy to say the least.
Let us go talk to the professor.
McAvoy or Stewart, these timelines are so confusing.
Or hell, they'll just joke about how Fox themselves didn't initially believe in an R-rated Deadpool film actually working, and how they didn't fork out much of a budget for it because they were predicting failure and wanted to save some money.
Whose balls did I have to fondle to get my very own movie? Wolverine. He's got a nice pair of smooth criminals down under.
It's a big house. It's funny that I only ever see two of you. It's almost like the studio couldn't afford another X-Men.
Or hell, they'll just break the fourth wall to make fun of the actors and their past failed endeavors.
And please don't make the super suit green. Or animated.
You're welcome, Canada.
Now, like I said, Deadpool and Wolverine does have a lot of that really funny meta humor. The Cavalrine cameo and how poorly he was treated by the DCEU is a perfect example of that.
We will treat you so much better than those shitfucks down the street you were just leaving.
And even though I hated how they so callously killed off Johnny Storm, by which I mean the MCU's fanfiction version of Johnny Storm and not the actual one from the Fantastic Four movies by 20th Century Fox, which I'd happily bet was probably because fuckhead Feige was so pathetically insecure and just hated the fact that the actor that played his precious Captain America was also a likable Marvel superhero outside of the quote-unquote sacred timeline in a franchise that he had nothing to do with.
I don't... Not my favorite Chris.
However, pinning Johnny's death on the fact that Chris Evans is also one of the most expensive actors in Hollywood today was still a nice touch as far as Deadpool humor goes.
We're all grieving. Yes, he know what he was doing in the budget.
Hell, my personal favorite moment is when Wesley Snipes' Blade says he doesn't like Deadpool, to which Deadpool responds with saying that he never did.
And you? I was not expecting to see you here. I'm already in the void. I'm not trying to get canceled again. I don't like you. You never did.
Which is a reference to the character Ryan Reynolds played in Blade Trinity called Hannibal King.
Also, just a thought, but you might want to consider blinking once in a while. I'm sorry, I ate a lot of sugar today.
Say we're successful, say we wipe out all the vampires. What then, huh? I mean, somehow I don't picture you teaching karate at the local Y. He hates me, doesn't he?
Yeah. Which, if you've watched the third Blade movie, you know was kind of an unofficial prequel and or sort of test drive for Reynolds to play this current version of Deadpool, since the characters share a lot of the same humor and mannerisms.
How about you take a sugar-frosted fuck off the end of my dick? I ate a lot of garlic, and I just farted. Silent but deadly. It's a new flavor crystal formula. Twice the chocolatey goodness, half the calories, plus it helps prevent tooth decay. There.
One more word. Please give me one.
Gubernatorial.
Which some people will likely just compare to Dwayne No-Cock Johnson, just plays Dwayne Johnson in all of his shitty movies. It's just Ryan Reynolds playing Ryan Reynolds in every single one of his movies. And while there's certainly some truth to that, but regarding the comparison to Deadpool, again, if you check out the film, you'll see what I mean. But once again, I digress. Point being, all of those examples I just mentioned are examples of good meta-humor. However, under the new banner of Disney and Marvel Studios, and unlike in the previous Deadpool movies where Fox would poke fun at its past failings and laugh at itself alongside its audience, in the MCU's version, however, you have that same type of meta-humor where the movie makes fun of itself, its characters, its actors, its sequels, its prequels, and its competition. But rather than laughing along with its audience in good taste, the MCU's version of Deadpool humor comes across as actively mocking its audience instead. Which, if you take that into consideration, it comes across much less like Deadpool humor and much more like She-Hulk humor.
This is the story that Kevin wants.
I'm here to see Kevin. It's urgent.
Great. Let me just have you sign our non-disclosure agreement and then have a seat.
And there's a number of perfect examples I can point to. Hell, one instance that really showed its true colors and pissed me off to no end was when they actually had Wesley Snipes say, quote,
"There's only been one Blade. There's only ever going to be one Blade."
Which was a direct reference to the absolute hellish production the new MCU Blade movie is currently going through, being delayed several times, as well as the plot leaks sounding absolutely horrifying. Side note here, but given the new Marvel Studios business model for the MCU of relying on cameo bait instead of story, and focusing on stealing characters from other franchise and filmmakers instead of building characters themselves, I'm just gonna go out and say it here, Wesley Snipes fucking ruled in this movie. I mean, sure, it was a little rusty, which is understandable given that he's been away from Blade for 20 years. But if they were willing to bring Hugh Jackman back because they couldn't think of a new Deadpool story, and they couldn't make a compelling villain for Deadpool to go up against, well then why the fuck didn't they just do a new Blade film with Wesley Snipes? Since he's obviously still got it, and people would love to see it. Granted, in the hands of fuckhead Feige, it would be absolute shit, no question about that, so I probably shouldn't give them any ideas, but I can't help it. It honestly just boggles the mind what their approach to making a new Blade movie has been. Matter of fact, the only one who seems to be pushing what makes simple business sense for what the next move for the new Blade film should be is Ryan Reynolds himself, who coincidentally enough, as I was making this video, openly advocated for a Logan-like send-off for Wesley Snipes' Blade. Think what you will of the guy, but he certainly has a knack for reading the room. Much like Deadpool and Wolverine as a concept alone, this idea would go over well with fans and make Marvel some serious bank in the process, even if it would undoubtedly be
one big pile of shit.
And given Kevin Feige's complete lack of imagination, I wouldn't be surprised if they instead opted for having Wesley make a cheap-ass cameo appearance in the upcoming MCU Blade film, and then proceed to turn him into a complete joke of a character and kill him off in the most callous, unceremonious way possible, which in Marvel's twisted way is equivalent to gracefully passing the torch and paying tribute, when in actuality, just like much of the humor in Deadpool and Wolverine, is just Marvel spitefully jerking their own dick. But back to my point about the humor, the fact that Marvel Studios brought back Wesley Snipes' Blade to spout this line, knowing full well that his role as Blade has been very cherished by Marvel fans, and knowing that despite the universe itself and its powers that be seem to absolutely fucking hate this new Blade movie that they've devised, to which Marvel has decided to dismiss outright, and have instead opted to scratch and claw their way through to the end of production. Despite all of this, Disney, Marvel, and fuckhead Feige still fully intend on replacing Wesley Snipes with a recast of Blade. Hence that meta joke was more like a middle finger mockery at the fourth wall. Another perfect example of what I'm talking about is this moment where Deadpool talks about pissing off the quote-unquote woke mob, as if Marvel Studios is saying, oh, we know you guys hate the wokeness that we like to preach in our shitty movies, because hey, look, we're pointing it out to you.
Oh, ableism, great. That's not gonna go over well with the woke mob.
When we all know that Disney, Marvel, and fuckhead Feige is, make no mistake about it, woke as all fuck, and love to shout that from the mountaintops, or rather the anthills, of their current year television and film productions, and we all know that that's unfortunately not going to change anytime soon. Not to mention putting Femme Xavier, aka Professor X Chromosome, in Deadpool and Wolverine, as well as the inclusion and portrayal of Elektra as an equal combatant of Blade, X-23, and Gambit. When in the 20th Century Fox films, she was just some rich girl that fucked about with a couple of pitchforks. So if you think Deadpool and Wolverine was immune from the woke, think again. Because that's just as prevalent here, and just outright saying, hey, we're self-aware. Hey, we know you hate wokeness, and we're mocking the woke mob. But we're still gonna cater to them. As I said, what they're really doing is mocking the audience that actively criticizes this aspect of the franchise. And hell, adding insult to injury here, there's also an instance where Deadpool actually outright says,
Can we just be done? No, with the whole multiverse thing. It's not great. It's just been miss after miss after miss. Let's just take the L and move on. I think it's been steadily great since Endgame.
Okay, first off, I wonder how exactly the Marvel Bitch Brigade took that one when they heard it straight from the horse's mouth, because they're the ones who have been defending the decline of the MCU into the MCU. They kicked and screamed their whole way through the MCU Phase 4, just waving off and dismissing any and all criticisms, and using as much headcanon and mental gymnastic muscle as they could muster to make any sense of the multiverse saga. So I'm betting that line had to have made them just a teensy bit miffed. And don't get me wrong, I would love to relish in that, except there's one problem. The joke was on us because it was specifically designed to spite Marvel's detractors, because yeah, we know the MCU has been a complete trash fire since the end of the Infinity Saga, but it's another thing entirely if Marvel knows it and is consciously gloating about it.
Welcome to the MCU, by the way. You're joining at a bit of a low point.
But I'd wager they did this knowing full well so much of their audience is chocked with dumb fucks at this point that most of them would have likely reacted with, oh my god, such great humor, Deadpool and fuckhead Feige totally get us.
Oh, I think it's been steadily great since Endgame.
People, for some reason, well, they cheer.
What are you talking about?
And Marvel Studios was likely banking that for many of these individuals, the fact that they were openly being mocked would fly completely over their heads. Because they're basically saying, yeah, we've heard all of the accurate criticisms of our shitty-ass fucking movies and our current business model, and guess what? We have no intent on addressing any of it. After all, why should we change back to the old business model of trying to make good movies a consistent and coherent cinematic universe and telling good stories when our audience is easier than a drunken college chick at a frat party, and all it takes to get them to open their mouths and their wallets is to sprinkle some A-lister cameo bait in the trailers, as well as some surprise A-lister celebrities to just pop their heads onto the screen during the movie in order to get our Marvel bitch brigade to clap like seals. Now look, at first glance, I can understand people being somewhat manipulated into thinking, yeah, great humor, oh my god, this is why I come to see a Deadpool film, simply on the grounds of agreeing with what the humor is saying because they were caught up in the moment, because that's what it was designed to do. Unlike the 20th Century Fox films, which were actively mocking themselves whilst trying to course correct, albeit admittedly still falling flat on their face in trying, in this case, Deadpool is owned by Disney and Marvel Studios, and mentioning all of the aspects of their franchise that people criticize and despise as if to be self-aware, it's basically Feige and his cuckold clan saying, yeah, we know why we suck, but we don't care because we're going to keep doing it. Thanks, idiots. And again, if you don't believe me, all you need to do is look at the most recent Comic-Con to know exactly what I mean. Anyway, now that we've discussed the humor, let's talk about a sort of reunion between X-23 and Wolverine. I'll say this, the movie is aware that these characters aren't from the same timeline, so it's not the kind of reunion we'd expect from both of these characters reuniting in the Logan timeline. Instead, it's more so X-23 telling Wolverine to get off his ass and stop being a sulky bitch because the version of him that she knew saved her and all of her friends. Even though we have to ignore the fact that Wolverine only returned to his former glory in the last 10 to 15 minutes of that movie, which he also spent the majority of sulking about his past failings.
Get the fuck away from me.
Bad shit happens to people I care about. Understand me?
But that aside, this is one of the few sincere scenes that I was able to buy into. What can I say? It worked. Moving on. Then we begin the film's final act where the Fox Avengers, Deadpool, and Wolverine head out to the big battle with Professor X Chromosome. And as I said, this whole thing was engineered in place of an actual story so that fuckhead Feige could instead have a little sayonara swan song that nobody asked for to the Marvel character remnants of the 20th Century Fox X-Men and Marvel franchise. That was already ended when Disney bought the frickin' company. Hell, they even have Elektra say,
And we'll get our ending.
Wow.
Who the fuck asked for this in a Deadpool and Wolverine film? Granted, I could care less about Elektra, but Chris Evans as Johnny Storm, and especially Wesley Snipes' Blade, I have a huge soft spot for. And the fact that they were both brought back just to die, more than just a little bit, left me pissed off. Again, I have to stress, why the fuck did this need to be in a Deadpool and Wolverine movie? The fucking film should have been the easiest slam dunk all on its own. Granted, at the end of the movie, Deadpool asks the multiverse police if they could bring back some of the characters that helped get them home. So maybe Blade and the rest are still alive, but the only character that we see at the end of the film that is still alive from the Fox franchise is X-23. Likely because Daphne Keane is probably the only one who's still enthusiastic about appearing in more MCU films. Or maybe she's the only one that fuckhead Feige wants to exploit for more cameo bait. But once again, I digress. So Deadpool and Wolverine hatch a scheme to overpower Professor X Chromosome, but the only thing that changes her mind to send Deadpool and Wolverine back to the right universe, which somehow involves one of the wizard rings from Doctor Strange's wizard school, the reason she does this is because Logan knew her brother Charles, and all of a sudden she gives a shit. Again, okay. Also, Professor X Chromosome gets pissy at the multiverse police because they tried to assassinate her, so she follows them back to Deadpool's universe in order to confront the most menacing villain the MCU has ever spawned, the Man in the Suit. Who she then coerces into telling her how she can erase all of the timelines in the multiverse and end everything. Okay, you know what? Fuck this. Just fuck it all and fuck the multiverse. A sentiment, I will add, which is shared by none other than the director of Logan himself, James Mangold. Can't imagine why.
Gee, let me think.
And before you all start throwing Dial of Destiny in his face, as well as whatever other travesty the modern-day Lucasfilm Ku Klux Kennedy regime has him cooking up for Disney Wars, just remember how many very competent filmmakers were thrown to the wolves by signing a contract to work for those clowns and slap their name on a product that was creatively meddled with and fucked to all shit. Because divorced from all that, James Mangold has proven time and again that he can make excellent movies. In a recent interview, however, James Mangold revealed that he was not a fan of the new business model that's become so prominent in Hollywood in regards to multiverses or multi-movie universe building. Quote, "I don't do multiverses," James Mangold recently told Rolling Stone when asked if audiences could expect to see Joaquin Phoenix's Johnny Cash return in the upcoming Bob Dylan biopic starring Timothée Chalamet. Mangold previously directed Phoenix's Oscar-nominated performance in 2005's Walk the Line. Side note here, if we as a culture have reached the point where we're questioning James Mangold on whether or not he's going to turn a biopic into a fucking Marvel parody, then we've got some serious fucking problems. Anyway, the director confirmed that fans won't see any crossovers in A Complete Unknown as Boyd Holbrook portrays Johnny Cash in the film. Quote, "I love Joaquin, but he's not 30, or whatever Johnny was at this moment. They're both young people in that moment in life," Mangold explained. Quote, "It's weird that I've even worked in the world of IP entertainment because I don't like multi-movie universe building. I think it's the enemy of storytelling, the death of storytelling. It's more interesting to people the way the Legos connect than the way the story works in front of us." He continued, quote, "For me, the goal becomes always what is unique about this film and these characters, not making you think about some other movie or some Easter egg or something else, which is all an intellectual act, not an emotional act. You want the movie to work on an emotional level." End quote. Ain't that the fucking truth? And that's exactly what Logan had going for it that this film doesn't. Granted, Logan was opting for a far darker and more serious tone than Deadpool and Wolverine is going for, so I understand it's largely comparing apples with oranges. However, as I said, the first Deadpool film was able to do exactly what James Mangold is talking about. It was largely self-contained. It was lighthearted, but it had an emotional anchor to keep the audience invested. It was a damn near perfect balance. Whereas Deadpool and Wolverine, through its uncontained and incoherent multiverse meta approach, doesn't achieve any emotional anchor beyond the superficial and incredibly shallow. This reliance on nostalgia as both its bait and its anchor to leave a positive impression on the audience as they leave the theater and have both the audience and the media jabbering on about it and boost its revenue numbers so that the movie can make its money back quickly in 2 weeks is simply the new business model approach of Marvel Studios towards making their movies. As James Mangold said, it's an intellectual act, not an emotional act. And on an emotional level, again, Deadpool and Wolverine has very little to offer beyond the shallow and the superficial because very little thought was placed into telling a good story. Anyway, Deadpool and Wolverine return to Wade's timeline, aka the 20th Century Fox timeline, to stop the multiverse police. The man in the suit is all like, damn, we were about to use the Time Ripper. But before Deadpool and Wolverine can turn him into a shish kebab, as I said, they're suddenly interrupted by Professor X Chromosome, who follows them and coerces the guy in the suit to tell her how to use the machine, because she wants to destroy every single timeline until there's only one remaining timeline left, which is the one that her junkyard wasteland world that she currently rules over resides in. And while she does that, she also brought along the multiverse Deadpool army to deal with Wade and Logan. After some dicking around with the extremely played out and tired as fuck Deadpool dog gag, Deadpool and Wolverine finally decide to team up, and because they're already opting for a fan service Viagra shot straight to the loins. They have Wolverine don his iconic comic book mask for the final 15 minutes of the film. Which, to be clear, I'm fine with. This is not a flaw by any means, it just feeds into my criticism that once again this movie only opts for the satisfaction of the most superficial and shallow of the audience's needs. Anyway, we finally get the big team-up scene between Deadpool and Wolverine as they fight over 100 Deadpool variants in a very satisfying and well-directed tracking shot, and I love my tracking shots, so I had a big fat smile on my face during this whole sequence. It wasn't quite as good as the one-cut tracking shot fight sequences in the Netflix Daredevil series, but this was definitely up there. Anyway, all this proves to be for naught when all of the Deadpools suddenly regenerate after getting gutted. They're all ready to go for round 2, but at the last moment, Deadpool's friend Peter shows up, and the sheer awesomeness of his presence is enough to make all 100 Deadpool variants walk away and let Wade and Logan live. You know, because he's Peter.
Enough said.
And I'm not being sarcastic here. Peter is the stuff of legend, ladies and gentlemen. Meanwhile, the whole time this fight is happening, Professor X Chromosome still hasn't started using the Time Ripper. Apparently she was just standing there in a trance this whole fucking time, and only started moving again after the end of that giant lengthy fan service gore fest. But once we got the fan service out of the way, only then does the plot and the rest of the characters in this movie unfreeze from the stoppage in time. Anyway, the guy in the suit tells Deadpool and Wolverine how to stop her from using the machine, which involves blowing it up by combining matter with antimatter. And yeah, whatever, I guess. But the point that is stressed is that whoever does this is going to die, regardless of their abilities to regenerate, because they're going to be atomized from this. So this leads to Deadpool and Wolverine exchanging a sincere goodbye to each other, where Wolverine opts to sacrifice himself for redemption after letting down the X-Men in his timeline. But we get the first in a trifecta of swerves when Deadpool, at the very last moment, takes Wolverine's place instead, which, to be honest, was eerily reminiscent of Michael Bay's Armageddon, of all things.
Say hi to your friends for me.
Do me a favor, will you? Just tell Grace that I'll always be with her, okay?
Yeah. Okay, kid.
Why are you fucking doing this?
Because I'm Marvel Jesus.
It's my turn now.
This should be me.
Say hi to my friends for me, Peanut.
It's my job! You go take care of my little girl now. That's your job.
Not sure if anyone else caught on to that. Anyway, it turns out Deadpool isn't able to stop the machine by himself, so again, at the last possible moment, we get the second swerve where Wolverine breaks his way into the chamber and joins hands with Deadpool, allowing for them to sabotage the Time Ripper, sacrificing themselves in the process. In the aftermath, the superiors of the Multiverse Police, who didn't know the guy in the suit
Enough of this.
was making an unauthorized Time Ripper and acting rogue of the establishment the whole time, all of a sudden show up to ask him just what the hell is going on. The guy in the suit feeds her some bullshit about hiring Deadpool and Wolverine to save the multiverse, but oh no, they unfortunately died, how tragic. When all of a sudden we get the third and final swerve, when it turns out that Deadpool and Wolverine didn't actually die because they were too roided out on awesomeness to kick the bucket. Okay.
I don't understand. How are you two still alive?
But you put a Deadpool and a Wolverine together? Make them hold hands while listening to Madonna? Indestructible, motherfucker.
Look, I didn't expect Marvel to kill either of these guys off, especially in a Kevin Feige production, where the stakes are all but completely non-existent. And again, I understand that Deadpool films are incredibly meta movies that don't take themselves nearly as seriously as, say, The Dark Knight, for instance. But couldn't they have just put a little more effort into it? It doesn't have to be a complete joke, you guys. But you know what? I could have gotten past that even. If the film didn't spend so much time sincerely trying to milk the scene to death with sincerity, only to be like, psych? And to be fair, they did this in Deadpool 2 as well, in the final act. I didn't care for it then, and I certainly don't care for it now. In the case of the MCU, however, they almost always do this, so I shouldn't be surprised. But once was enough with Deadpool, twice is too much, and 3 times when they inevitably pay off that "why is Thor crying" bullshit, and they bait and switch that death too, they can go fuck themselves. Anyway, the guy in the suit gets arrested, Deadpool and Wolverine are pardoned because they save the timeline. The multiverse police decide not to undo what happened in Wolverine's timeline because it made him the man who he is, and without that, Deadpool's timeline wouldn't exist anymore. As I said earlier, Deadpool asks if any of the friends that helped them from back in the Wasteland world could be saved. And the multiverse police, conveniently enough for Kevin Feige, are able to save only X-23. That is, of course, unless the rest of them were saved off-screen, but I highly doubt it, especially since the whole reason they were brought back, aside from bait and fan service for the masses, was to get their quote-unquote ending.
And we'll get our ending.
Anyway, Deadpool and Wolverine go to get shawarma.
I understood that reference.
Deadpool gets his dog, hooray. Deadpool and Wolverine become bros, yah frickety who, and spend the holidays together with X-23 and the rest of Deadpool's friends. And Wolverine tells Deadpool to stop being a pussy and get Vanessa back, and that's where the film ends. Alright, in case I haven't made my thoughts on the movie crystal clear by this point, let's just summarize so I can wrap this video up. Deadpool and Wolverine is not without its merits. It's definitely entertaining. It's definitely funny. It definitely maintains a lot of the spirit that made the first 2 Deadpool films so much fun. It's violent, bloody, action-heavy, and the language is so gloriously foul they could scarcely give more fucks if they tried. However, the same cannot be said for other, more substantive aspects of the movie. And that's because Deadpool and Wolverine also possesses a lot of what many of us feared would drag it down after the Disney purchase of 20th Century Fox, and we weren't wrong, since the movie suffered immensely from what makes the modern-day MCU such a train wreck. Minimal attention paid to character depth and growth beyond the superficial. The villain, or 2 villains depending on how you choose to count them in this movie, were an absolute joke. The story was borderline non-existent. The plot, whatever there was in fucking tatters. And in classic MCU fashion, the bloating of that damn franchise, which this film also lends to, requires you to indulge external and comparatively obscure Disney Plus productions to even have the faintest clue for what's going on in this film, when that was never a problem for the previous 2 Deadpool films. And much of the humor that's disguised as Marvel poking fun at themselves, as some sort of olive branch to some of their most ardent critics and disgruntled audience members, came across as mockery instead, because the self-awareness that was on display came from the same regime of Feige fuckwits that are actively contributing to the problem. And more to the point, they are proud of it.
This is the story that Kevin wants.
Can we just be done with the whole multiverse thing? Let's just take the L and move on. I think it's been steadily great since Endgame.
As for the fan service, most of it was done in good taste, at least the stuff that was self-contained within the movie, such as the frenemy dynamic between Deadpool and Wolverine. A lot of the meta stuff, however, wasn't. Not all of it, though, understand. The Cavalrine, for instance, was fucking glorious. But then again, the active prods at any of the Marvel characters that weren't homegrown by the MCU, with the exception of Deadpool and Wolverine themselves, just came across as Kevin Feige on an obnoxious power trip flogging his dick, when given the current status of the MCU, there's absolutely nothing for that hack to brag about, especially when, once again, the only success that his shitty franchise has found in recent years,
The record-smashing summer event has officially crossed $1 billion.
is due to the acquisition of other established characters that other creators have made from franchises they've swiftly tried to bury. And again, the humor tries to disguise that as Marvel being self-aware, like they're in on the joke, when in actuality it was the purest form of spite.
Really makes you think.
As I said from the beginning, Deadpool and Wolverine isn't a complete loss, and I will commend Marvel Studios and hell, even Disney for not pussying out and toning Deadpool down into its family-friendly entertainment model, though I think the majority of credit for that should go directly to Ryan Reynolds. And Deadpool and Wolverine does deliver on a lot of the superficial aspects that fans were expecting, but it's also a pretty big letdown on all of the other aspects that were well thought out in the first Deadpool film, which made it so good. And hell, even the second Deadpool film, at least by comparison to this one. And despite enjoying some of the movie for the incredibly shallow experience that it was, I can't help but feel like it was also a huge missed opportunity to do something much, much better that was self-contained and unique in its own right. It could have been the Lethal Weapon style superhero movie we all wanted that could have worked without undoing the excellent ending to Logan, instead of opting for all this awfully constructed multiverse bullshit, which they also could have done much, much better. Like Into the Spider-Verse, for instance, did, before they tethered their franchise to the sinking ship that is the MCU. Because as a result, this movie, while entertaining and fun, is also a fucking mess and a continuity disaster at the same time. The Deadpool franchise that once stood as something of an anomaly for Marvel films, that was unique and awesome on its own, has sadly become, like all the rest, just another MCU film, and in the current day and age, that's anything but a good thing. Sure, the shallow approach they took with this film as part of the new Feige fraud business model will rake in the hundreds of millions of dollars in the opening 2 weeks, so that the MCU can quote-unquote break records and get a whole bunch of pseudo-praise from all its shill media that's bought and paid for. But like my video that thoroughly deconstructs why most of these shitty films still turn a profit, the MCU movies that rely on this shameless marketing and business model don't have a lot of rewatchability, nor do they get the traction through word of mouth that you would expect. Hence their box office dries up rather quickly, but holds up long enough to A, make its money back, in most cases, and B, leave a positive impression of themselves in the media, in order to get the clout and save face publicly, even though in the following weeks we will see a ginormous decline when these tactics are used as a crutch, which is why most MCU films will open very strong at the box office, but will often very quickly fizzle out once the glamour has worn off. See Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness as a prime example of this. Now granted, Deadpool and Wolverine is an undeniable dynamo of financial success, and unlike Multiverse of Madness, it's actually somewhat fun to watch. And of course, a large portion of moviegoers just like to go to the cinema to have fun anyway, so it's not like this film has no rewatchability whatsoever. Again, it's just catering to the most shallow and superficial individuals. Hell, I've seen plenty of Marvel fans in comment threads talking about how they just left the theater for the 5th time.
Stop it. Get some help.
But make no mistake, Deadpool and Wolverine is following this same box office pattern, which is the point I'm getting at, and I will ably demonstrate this. See, whereas most movies that don't rely on the same shallow tactics that Deadpool and Wolverine and pretty much every single other recent MCU release was relying on in order to be financially successful, these movies instead focus on doing things the old-fashioned way in order to make money. By which I mean they focus first and foremost on being good movies. And as a result, despite not always breaking records with their box office openings, the return on investment for these movies is far more consistent in their box office earnings, as well as having longevity to those numbers in the later weeks of their release due to their rewatchability, and how much they fulfill the audience emotionally, as opposed to just starting strong due to clever marketing and hype, only to have those numbers drop much quicker because only the most hardcore and shallow audience members are interested in seeing it over and over again. In other words, like James Mangold said in his recent comments about the multiverse, the reason these movies with the old-fashioned approach to story first end up succeeding is because they have a heart. They aren't a product of success simply due to clever marketing. and trying to appease the most shallow audience members. To summarize, movies that don't conform to that and stick with the old-fashioned approach end up being financially successful because they do more with less, and they do well financially for longer. Whereas Marvel's new business model may do well occasionally, but it's also incredibly short-sighted, and despite some success, will most, if not always, follow the same financial pattern, and will become a very tired tactic the more they choose to indulge it. Before I make a very broad point out of this, let's start off very specific and compare Deadpool and Wolverine with some of the more recent successes in its very own R-rated comic book movie category that did things the old-fashioned way, all of which relied on telling great stories with none of the shameless marketing that the MCU now uses for a crutch, and all of which excelled at the box office with only a small fraction of Deadpool and Wolverine's budget. These movies include, but are certainly not limited to, well, obviously, the first Deadpool movie. You bet your ass Logan's on there as well. And of course, 2019's Joker film, which was the R-rated box office king that until recently was dethroned by Deadpool and Wolverine, making it the new highest grossing R-rated film of all time, which everyone, especially Marvel stans, seems to be sucking this off as some great achievement that defied all the odds, and hooray, Marvel finally dethroned Joker, blah blah blah. Again, I'm not denying the success of being the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time. I'm simply saying it's not without its share of caveats. For example, if you'll recall, Joker had a cavalcade of fuckwits that were trying to run that movie into the ground, particularly the media, because if you saw the movie, it would supposedly incite violence. Yeah, you remember that horse shit? Point I'm getting at is the Joker movie had everything working against it, including the mainstream, the R rating, the goodwill of DC being tarnished by the train wreck that was the DCEU, and still Joker managed to breeze past the $1 billion mark to become the R-rated king of the box office. Deadpool and Wolverine, on the other hand, had everything working for it. Fan service, fan favorite characters, shameless marketing bait, shill media, years of anticipated hype, brand momentum. Well, the Deadpool brand anyway, sure as shit not the MCU brand.
What happened to you, man? Used to be cool.
I'm still cool.
Nah, you've changed, man.
In other words, Deadpool and Wolverine was a powder keg waiting to explode, and the easiest $1 billion waiting to be made since Star Wars The Force Awakens, that shameless sack of copy-pasted Gen X fanboy shit. And despite that, Deadpool and Wolverine still had its work cut out for it to break Joker's record. It would have done so much easier and with greater results if it took the high road instead of shamelessly taking the low road, with the new fuckhead Feige business model approach. But Joker, on the other hand, did take the high road, and despite the media's best efforts, which no doubt affected its domestic box office numbers, which pale in comparison to Deadpool and Wolverine's, especially after the hype train paid dividends with DPW's ridiculous box office opening weekend, which is also the only reason Deadpool and Wolverine was able to pass Joker in the first place. Joker still had a good box office opening, but despite not coming close to that of Deadpool and Wolverine, still made bank and remained much more consistent throughout its entire box office run, whilst using none of Deadpool and Wolverine's shameless tactics, as despite all of that, Joker still managed to resonate much stronger with the worldwide audience due to its quality, which again, based on how it's tracking, Deadpool and Wolverine will likely fall short or barely scrape by the number set by Joker. And don't forget, if these figures are to be believed, Joker did all of this on just over a quarter of Deadpool and Wolverine's budget, a large bulk of which was probably spent on those fucking cameos. And not to mention the marketing budget for Deadpool and Wolverine, no doubt being insane as well, but undeniably worked. So while yes, Marvel took the highest grossing R-rated movie box office crown, they did so at a much greater cost to themselves. And not to mention the fact that this is all happening post-pandemic inflation, which has jacked up the price of pretty much fucking everything in just a span of a couple of years, movie tickets being no exception. which also no doubt had a hand in helping Deadpool and Wolverine, which was already a sure thing, to claim the R-rated movie pole position. Now, just to widen the lens and summarize in the much broader sense the major flaw and lack of foresight with the MCU's new business model, which started after Marvel's momentum grinded to a halt after Avengers Endgame, and once all else had failed, this new strategy began with Spider-Man No Way Home's approach to making box office bank, which ultimately led to how and why Deadpool and Wolverine was made. To demonstrate this point, I'm going to use two of the most widely well-regarded and lucrative movies at the worldwide box office in recent years, those being Avatar: The Way of Water and Top Gun: Maverick, both of which came out in 2022 and both of which kicked absolute ass. Yeah, that's right, deal with it, dipshit. See, whereas Spider-Man No Way Home, along with Deadpool and Wolverine, both relied on accumulated hype from a fan base that was built over a decade, belonging to two separate franchises, of course, before Fox was bought out by Disney and Deadpool was brought into the MCU, the idea was to bank on not only the crossover, but the gullibility of the audience to buy into shallow fan service and nostalgia instead of an interesting premise and an engaging story and plot. The reason I'm choosing to bring up Avatar: The Way of Water and Top Gun: Maverick isn't just because they were successful, but they are essentially the perfect counterexamples to the Marvel business model. Because neither of those movies had any of this going for them. Both franchises were completely dormant for over a decade. They didn't have a decade of fandom and hype built up with a long series of, let's be honest here, mostly B movies. And both movies had none of this bought and paid for shill media rumor mill operating constantly to try and keep the hype train rolling. In fact, in the case of Avatar: The Way of Water, it was, quite frankly, the opposite, where much of the mainstream media, including certain types of extremely petty Marvel stans, as well as the online pseudo-critical YouTube sphere, were so sure of themselves in praying for Avatar: The Way of Water to outright tank hard at the box office.
Made a video back in 2019 defending it during peak Endgame time. This was a peak Avatar hate. Not that Avatar. Enough. I'm fine with people not liking the movie. That's usually fine with me. But I've never seen so many people preying on a movie's downfall before it even comes out. Like, I never say the word haters, but this movie has actual haters. Like, not just saying they don't like it. Actively praying. Known atheists. They've never prayed a day in their lives. They're actively praying on this movie's downfall. They just started praying just for this.
What? But hey, shows what they knew, which was fucking nothing. And Avatar: The Way of Water and Top Gun: Maverick both excelled at the box office, especially in the case of Top Gun: Maverick, far beyond expectations, because guess what? Those two movies took the old-fashioned approach of movie first instead of Marvel's new approach of marketing first, and as a result, Avatar: The Way of Water and Top Gun: Maverick, despite not having the highest grossing openings in movie history, still had far more longevity and rewatchability reflected in their box office numbers in the later weeks of their release. Now, just focusing on the second Avatar film here, which came out over 13 years after the original did and didn't spend over a decade baiting the audience with recycled, formulaic, derivative superhero films and fan service, did Avatar: The Way of Water have a bigger box office opening than Deadpool and Wolverine did? Fuck no! But it made more money in the long term. If we look at the numbers during the fourth domestic box office weekends for both movies respectively, Avatar: The Way of Water is well ahead of Deadpool and Wolverine, and as it's currently tracking, Deadpool and Wolverine will fall well short of Avatar's domestic box office, despite Deadpool and Wolverine's shameless strategy to making money, as well as its early box office lead, which practically dwarfs Avatar. And again, this is just domestically. The domestic box office is where most hardcore comic book fans reside, and it's where most of the rewatches come from. Internationally, however, Avatar: The Way of Water blitzed Deadpool and Wolverine because it was a far better movie that resonated with a much broader audience. It was much the same with Top Gun: Maverick, whose domestic box office opening didn't come close to that of Deadpool and Wolverine, but again, comparing the numbers of Top Gun: Maverick's domestic box office numbers during its fourth weekend with that of Deadpool and Wolverine, It's glaringly evident that Top Gun Maverick's numbers reflected far more longevity in its profits because it took the tried and true approach that Marvel used to do, and hell, what most movies used to do before they got lazy as shit. Of course, it's worth noting that Deadpool and Wolverine is R-rated, which no doubt had an effect on its earnings, but let's not pretend for a second that Deadpool and Wolverine wasn't opting for broad appeal. Now let's compare these films to the one that started this shitty-ass nostalgia bait bullshit box office trend, that being Spider-Man No Way Home. Practically fucking annihilated Avatar: The Way of Water in its opening weekend, using this same shameless fucking strategy. And that opening was the only reason it beat Avatar at the box office domestically. However, for the very same reasons as Deadpool and Wolverine, again, most of the film's rewatches came from the domestic box office, which is where its core audience resides. And worldwide, Spider-Man No Way Home found enormous success, but it still managed to fall well short of Avatar. And while I'm not denying that Spider-Man No Way Home beat Top Gun Maverick outright, as was expected, what wasn't expected is the long-term success that Top Gun Maverick had at the box office, especially in the domestic market, which again, No Way Home, despite its success, followed a very similar pattern of opening strong and fizzling faster than you'd expect, especially when you consider its batshit mental box office opening. Which, like with Avatar: The Way of Water, was the only reason No Way Home was able to beat Top Gun Maverick at the domestic box office in the first place, even though if you compare both their numbers during their 4th domestic weekends respectively, Top Gun Maverick still had more longevity in its profits, meaning more people wanted to watch and rewatch it in the later weeks of its release. No Way Home, because it was the movie that kickstarted this trend, is kind of an outlier, because it was the first to exploit the multiverse concept the way that Marvel is currently doing, and it did so with an extremely popular IP reprised by fan-favorite actors that carried a lot of emotional resonance with fans, as well as the general movie-going audience. I'm not saying it won't be surpassed by an Avengers movie potentially, but Spider-Man No Way Home was when this whole multiverse cameo bullshit felt the most fresh. But everything else afterwards is going to feel more and more derivative and samey, and will no doubt lose its charm. Maybe not with the hardcore dedicated fan base, but the vast majority of moviegoers and comic book fans in general. And Marvel wouldn't have this to worry about if they just got off their lazy, unimaginative asses and actually focused on what mattered with making these movies. Look, the point of this tangent is that movies which put more emphasis on being works of quality, rather than appeasing internet memes and theories with fan service, more consistently make money and have more longevity in their profits. Whereas Marvel's new business model, being as shallow and shameless as it is, will undoubtedly make money, but it will be much more inconsistent. It will largely be hit or miss, and with every new derivative entry, the shine will wear off, leading to less profits being made. Unlike their old business model, good stories that invest people will keep them coming back and wanting more. But if you keep trying to trick people into buying a ticket by puppeteering some fan service and eye candy, that will only work for so long. Spider-Man No Way Home made so much bank when it first came out because it was a product of both internet hype and nostalgia bait. That was really the first of its kind at that budget and scale. Once the hype had died down, people started seeing the movie for how hollow and stupid it really was. I knew from then on, however, that Marvel was going to change their business model right the fuck up for something much, much worse. They would continuously try to catch that same lightning in a bottle that Spider-Man No Way Home managed to, because A, most of that profit went to Sony, and B, it was the laziest path to profit, perhaps for any movie ever. A combination of nostalgia and star power sprinkled onto an already popular IP, and then Marvel dropped Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and my suspicions were proved to be correct. And it's what we've been dealing with ever since, and it's been nothing but shit. And yes, that's precisely why I called this film a lovable disaster, just like No Way Home, because that's exactly what it is, a No Way Home clone. one of several already produced in a cycle that's inevitably going to produce many, many more. And for all its success, Deadpool and Wolverine isn't going to come close to Spider-Man No Way Home's box office. It's already tracking to be much, much less, and yes, I understand it's an R-rated film, so its audience is somewhat narrower than Spider-Man's, but so was Joker 2019, which pulled none of Marvel's bullshit. It was also rated R, and it had no problem crossing the $1 billion mark at the box office. Which again just goes back to what James Mangold said, which was correct. This new multiverse methodology for making movies is an intellectual act, not an emotional one. Sure, it makes money, but it leaves very little incentive for audience to come back to see the movie, or encourage others to see it, because once all of the superficial aspects have lost their shine, what else is there? The number one reason that people go to see these movies is because they want to have a unique experience with a good story that captivates them emotionally. Deadpool and Wolverine did not accomplish that. As for the rest of the MCU, the only thing I'm even vaguely interested in has only to do with characters that have nothing to do with the MCU. But Feige needs them, or his quote-unquote sacred timeline will go to absolute shit, not that it hasn't already. And he's proven time and again that his company, under his leadership, cannot create any characters of their own with actual substance. Or perhaps the motherfucker simply doesn't want to. So fuck him. As for Deadpool, I doubt I'll go to see the next one. The only reason I was interested in Deadpool and Wolverine was because I figured it had a shot of being good, but it just ended up squandering its potential by attaching itself to the MCU post-Endgame. I'm actually curious as to how hard they're going to bait and switch the fourth film, since Marvel seems to be getting more and more desperate and less capable of even telling just one good fucking story. And even though I enjoyed parts of Deadpool 3 despite the MCU-isms, there's only two good things that would make me even remotely interested in seeing more Deadpool from Ryan Reynolds at this point. Number one, the undeniably genius Deadpool marketing skits.
I've had it with all this Nickelback hating, all right? You think that makes you cool with the cool kids in school? 50 million albums worldwide, 11th best-selling musical act of all time. This is how you remind me.
You're goddamn right.
And number two, the Deadpool film that would give fuckhead Feige's franchise the sayonara swan song that it absolutely deserves. Actually, no. Given the direction the MCU is going in, it's more likely going to outstay its welcome so long to the point where it becomes so unbelievably shit that it decides to take a full-on meta approach and become a parody of itself, ending much the same way that 2.5 Men did, by pulling the curtain all the way back and dropping a piano on itself along with the one to blame.
Winning.